Alright everybody, well, I'm sorry for the multiple stimulus videos today. I usually like to keep my updates all in one place in my daily stimulus update video, but there is so much going on right now in the world of stimulus, and you're going to want to hear what I have to tell you about right now. So, two Democratic congressmen in the House of Representatives, Khanna of California and Tim Ryan of Ohio. Yes, that Tim Ryan who briefly ran for the Democratic presidential nomination last year with the slogan, "Our future is now." Representatives Khanna and Ryan introduced a bill called, and you're going to love this, the Emergency Money for the People Act. This act provides for anywhere between $2,000 and $5,500 in stimulus payments per month, depending on your income and household composition. They're basically proposing more tax-free stimulus checks, more direct cash payments to the people. And we need them. And I hope there are more direct cash payments. I know some people for whom the $1,200 just doesn't go far enough. But this particular act, it's a doozy. It's asking for a lot, and I'm going to get into the details. But first, let me remind you, this is simply legislation that has been introduced into the House. This is in very early stages. Don't get too excited just yet. It's something I'm going to monitor. Also, keep in mind that the House isn't even convening until May 4th, except for emergency legislation. And this might be considered emergency. I mean, it's in the name, right? But looking at the grab bag that is this Emergency Money for the People Act, I can tell you right now that Republicans aren't going to go for it, at least not in the way that the congressmen have drafted it. I'm not saying that Republicans are going to halt any future stimulus. That's not what I'm saying. But after I get explaining to you the details of the Emergency Money for the People Act, I think you'll see what I mean. But for kicks, let's go over this act right now that Congressman Khanna and Ryan have proposed. So, what the Emergency Money for the People Act proposes is to send every American over the age of 16 $2,000 per month for 6 months. After which, and assuming that employment levels have not returned to the pre-crisis employment level of 50%, Congress could vote to extend the payments for an additional 6 months. And if you have a dependent child, you'd be looking at an additional $500 per dependent child under the age of 17 with a maximum of 3 children per household. So another $500 per month per qualifying child. Wow. So just doing the math here. If you're married and under the income limits that I'm going to tell you about in a second, and you have 3 children, you could be looking at $2,000 for you, $2,000 for your spouse, and $500 for each of your little ones, meaning a $5,500 stimulus payment per month, ladies and gentlemen, tax-free. Can you say inflation? Can you say UBI on steroids? Can you say welfare state? You know this isn't going to happen. You know the Republicans aren't going to go for it. But let's keep talking about it. Let's dream, shall we? All right, so get this. The act also calls for stimulus payments to be allowed to be made via PayPal and Zelle and Venmo. I mean, these guys aren't even millennials. What's going on here? I mean, can you imagine the freaking Fed sending you your $5,500 welfare check through Venmo with a freaking like emoji, like an American flag or something? This is a freaking trip, man. I mean, I kind of want to meet these guys. But let me know what you think about Venmo stimulus payments in the comments below. All right. But you know, hey, at least this is something, right? At least it kind of gets the ball rolling, put some pen to paper in some way for stimulus round 2. And I mean, the more I look at this, the more I think this is all wishful thinking, okay? But just to let you know what they're saying, who would qualify under the Emergency Money for the People Act? So single taxpayers making less than $130,000 would qualify, and married couples making less than $260,000 would qualify as well. Now, here we go again. I know $250,000 a year doesn't make you rich in some parts of the country, but if you're struggling on $250,000 a year, you either need to move and live somewhere else less expensive or stick to a budget, and probably both. Like, frankly, I don't think a family making $250,000 a year needs an extra $5,500 a month. Do you? I don't. Now, I don't see anything on the Congressman's website about specific phase-outs, but I imagine there will be phase-outs for this as there are for the CARES Act. And similar to the CARES Act, if you make no money, you would also qualify for this. Now, I think this Emergency Money for the People Act is kind of funny, especially with the whole Venmo thing. There's no way that a Republican Senate would go for this, okay? And I don't want to make light of the people the CARES Act overlooked, all right? Including adult dependents, which are included in this Emergency Money for the People Act. Okay, the unbanked, right? That's who they're trying to get to with the whole Venmo, Zelle, PayPal thing. I get it, right? The CARES Act overlooked some people, and it shouldn't be that way, and I hope there is an additional stimulus that serves you folks better. And you know what? Maybe the strategy with this Emergency Money for the People ask is to, ask for this, knowing that you're only going to get maybe like this, right? So maybe that's the strategy they're going for here. But anyway, what do you think of this? What do you make of this Emergency Money for the People Act? I mean, we'd obviously love an extra $2,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 a month, but I encourage you to think about the long-term ramifications of something like this. You have to think about the fact that we and our children will be paying for something like this for a long time. There are also shorter term ramifications in terms of inflation. Okay, now, is this the last video today? Hopefully not. I really want to walk through that IRS Get My Payment tool for you, but it's not complying. It's still giving me that same message that I showed you in my stimulus update from earlier. I've seen a lot of people messaging me that they're having trouble accessing it as well, but hopefully that gets resolved for all of us before long. All right, so that's all for this video. I'm sorry for so many vids today. I just had to talk about this because I think it's good that Congress is thinking about stimulus part 2, and also because I thought the whole Venmo thing was kind of funny. So stay tuned, of course, for updates. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.